Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to you on this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Purpose Journey Counseling LLC. Locked in. We are still locked in for 2024. And I want to say good morning to you. I want to welcome you this morning on behalf of Purpose Journey Counseling. My name is Dr. Natatu North, and I am the owner and one of the therapists at Purpose Journey Counseling LLC, which is located in Cincinnati, Ohio. So again, good morning to you. It is Wednesday, March the 6th. 2024. It is 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we want to welcome you for those of you who are joining us live at 7 a.m. But whether you catch us at 7 a.m. or you catch this later in the day, later in the week, later in the month, or even later in the year, we want to welcome you on this morning. But currently at 7 a.m., we are live. We're live on Facebook, we're live on YouTube and X, formerly known as Twitter. And the YouTube link for this broadcast is posted on Instagram. So we do ask that you just take a few moments to please like this broadcast, like our pages. Please follow us on your preferred social media platform and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Even if you don't typically watch us on YouTube, you could please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Share the broadcast, and let's also interact and engage in the comments section as we are encouraging and empowering each other this morning. If this is your first time joining us, thank you so much for tuning in. We're just going to be here for a short period of time with some encouragement, with some empowerment on this Wednesday morning. So we're so glad that you tuned in. So stay tuned, stay tuned, stay tuned, stay tuned. Before we get started, though, I do want to share two numbers. The first number is for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. That number is 1-800-273-8255. Again, that's 1-800-273-8255. This number is 24/7. So please make sure that you have this number stored in your phone. If you should ever need it, if someone else should ever need it, you want to make sure that you have this resource available. The second number is for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. That number is 988. Again, the number is 988. Please store this number as well. This number is 24/7. You can also text this phone number. So we want to make sure we have these numbers, like I said, when and if ever needed. You may need it, someone else may need it, but let's just make sure that we have those two numbers locked in. You need to be locked in. Make sure you have them locked in just in case, just in case. So it is March. It is now the 6th day of March, and we are grateful for this new month. And every month we've been having a theme. January was self-care. February was love, and March is relationships. So we did talk about that a little bit on Sunday. If you didn't catch our podcast, you want to go ahead and tune into that. But relationships. So we'll be talking about different relationships, different aspects of relationships on these Wednesdays in March. Relationships are a very important part of our lives. So definitely looking at that from different vantage points and just giving a little bit of different perspective as it pertains to relationships this month. So everything we do will be geared around relationships. Okay. That's our theme. So on Wednesdays, we have what we call our Wellness Wednesday. So like I said, for those of you who are tuning in for the very first time, I want to thank you again for joining us. The Wellness Wednesday is exactly what it sounds like. We're talking about different things to get us going, to empower us, inspire us, different topics that just basically to be an encouragement to us. Wednesday, it's hump day, it's midweek, we've got through the case of the Mondays, we've got through, the stuff of Tuesday, but now we want to focus on Wednesday and kind of, giving us a little boost and, to just kind of take off for the rest of the week. So for this Wellness Wednesday, we're going to be talking about empathy with boundaries. Again, it's empathy with boundaries. Okay, Dr. Natatu, what on earth do you mean? So empathy is a very, very important concept. The fact of the matter is, it is important for us to be able to show empathy to others, to express that when dealing with others. We also know that some people struggle with showing empathy, just in the general sense. They really don't show empathy or don't know how to show empathy. And then there are also those of us who we show empathy so much to the point that it's overtaxing, it becomes overwhelming, and we are overextended. So sometimes there can be so much empathy towards someone else that we neglect to care for or even show empathy to ourselves. And it's interesting because even in school, when learning about empathy, I don't recall ever being, as a therapist, we're supposed to be, definitely extend empathy and show empathy to our clients or patients, whoever we're working with. But I don't recall ever learning we need to make sure that we're showing empathy to ourselves as well, and making sure that we have a balance between those things. And the reason why I say that is because if we really take it for what it's worth, we sometimes are so kind, so nice, so considerate to everyone else that it gets to a point that we're being mean to ourselves. We neglect our self-care. We neglect our feelings, our thoughts, the things that we need to be doing for us. It becomes kind of like an afterthought, sometimes not even a thought at all, because we're so concerned with showing empathy. Just an example, something someone is doing, is very taxing and bothering to you, but they're in a bad situation. So because they're in a bad situation, you neglect to kind of express the concerns that some of this stuff is causing you to protect them so that they're not further affected by adversity or negativity. But at the same time, it could be inflicting adversity and negativity on you. So then it becomes problematic, because not only now are they experiencing some type of disparity or something's going on with them, but now you are as well, because showing so much empathy, saying, okay, well, I want to show you so much empathy. I'm not even concerned about what this looks like for me. I'm not concerned about, what this is doing to me mentally, how this could be causing an issue for me. So when we're talking about empathy with boundaries, that means essentially flipping that. So being able to say, I understand, or I get the situation that you're in, or I want to be as big of a support for you as I can, or I'm trying to grasp the concepts and the nuances of what you're going through. However, we're going to have to manage it like this, or I'm not going to be able to allow you to do that, or we're going to have to look at this from a different perspective so that your needs are met, my needs are met, or maybe partially maybe both of our needs are not being met. However, we're looking at it from a perspective where it's not just I'm only on the giving end and you're only on the receiving end, if that makes sense. So we've talked about boundaries several times. We know boundaries are important. They're absolutely necessary. They are requirements. If you're thinking about relationships and how we deal one with another, boundaries are absolutely necessary. Empathy is absolutely necessary as well. However, again, it's important and imperative that we're not neglecting the boundaries with the empathy. And even the empathy with the boundaries is really interchangeable, because even when expressing boundaries, a lot of times people, struggle to accept someone's boundaries. Sometimes expressing the empathy when you're advising on what your boundaries are can actually make it easier for the person. It could, maybe not. However, it could be helpful. But I'm going to say this: empathy is important, but we still need boundaries. Why? Because then we can become jaded. A lot of times when there's no boundaries, relationships become very, very one-sided to where you're the giver, always the giver, never on the receiving end of anything. And even to the point where it can cause a lot of mental turmoil and distress as well, especially when we're being overt, like we're really trying to show that kindness and express the kindness and the compassion that we need to express. Nonetheless, without boundaries, it becomes a situation where sometimes we are honestly taken advantage of. Oh, you're just too nice. You just care so much. You're just super empathetic, or now you're really just an empath. And that's when it becomes, extremely, sometimes to the point where it's really unbearable at that point, because you're just now feeling so much of everything else from everyone else. You start to take on everyone else's stuff as your stuff. And we're supposed to bear one another's burdens. I mean, the Bible does say that. The Bible does not say bear it to the point to where it weighs you down, because it also says cast your cares on the Father, on the Lord. So even as we're bearing each other's burdens, we're not supposed to just carry them and fix them. That's not our job. That's not our job. That would be God's job. That'd be God's job. But when showing empathy, it is especially important to exert the boundaries as well. We have to protect ourselves within our relationships with other people. We need both. We definitely need both. However, it's not, and I'll say this, I want to say, however, we need both. And if we don't have both, we start to have issues within our relationships. There's increased conflict. There's potentially increased resentment and anger that is bred because of the lack of boundaries. A lot of times that happens. There's so much empathy on one end, but not enough boundaries. Or there's empathy, but the boundaries aren't being but the boundaries aren't being enforced, or that boundaries are not being respected. So whether you're on the giving end of empathy and the boundaries, or the receiving end of the empathy and the boundaries, is important to be able to understand both, the importance of both, what they both look like. So if you're the one having to extend the boundaries while showing empathy to someone, you understand how to stick to what you say, to say what you mean, to mean what you say. But if you're on the receiving end of the empathy and the boundaries, then you're understanding of, okay, I understand that this is how we're going to have to navigate this. This person is showing empathy. They're validating. They're definitely a support for me. And at the same time, I need to make sure that I'm respecting the boundary. Empathy and boundaries within relationships can make or break a relationship, honestly. They honestly can. But again, like I said, whether you're, the giver or the receiver, and hopefully it should be reciprocated. That's the whole point. Whether in this particular situation, you might be the receiver, but when you need to be able to give that as well, not just to that person, but to other people also. First aspect of relationships going through this month, like I said, we'll be talking about a ton of different aspects, but this is just something that is just, it comes up in a lot of conversations that I have with people. I mean, I know I talk to people all day. So it comes up in a lot of conversations. And sometimes, we struggle with the empathy. Some of us struggle to show empathy. It is important to make sure that we're able to do that as well. But, and sometimes some people might even say, well, that's my boundary. I don't show empathy. Well, we should, treat one another with empathy, being mindful of situations. However, those boundaries I would argue that a lot of times we don't do that because we don't have the boundary. If you have the boundary in place with the empathy, it will make it a lot easier to extend empathy in difficult situations or with difficult people. So that's our Wellness Wednesday for today. Empathy with boundaries. We'll keep talking about relationships over the course of this month. So that's Wellness Wednesday for this week. Just a couple of things before we wrap up for this morning. Just wanted to remind you, we do have our Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then we have our podcast, #FromAChristian, #FromATherapist with Dr. Natatu, on the first Sundays of the month at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we announced this on Sunday, but please mark your calendars. Our next episode of our monthly podcast which will be episode 19. It will be on Sunday, April the 7th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, that'll be Sunday the 7th, April 7th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please, please, please mark your calendars to plan to join us on that Sunday for our monthly podcast. We've been having a lot of fun and insightful dialogue and conversations on our podcast over the course of the last almost 2 years now. And we're just thankful for this platform. We're thankful for your support, your viewership, and sharing these videos. Again, this is meant to be encouraging and empowering. It's encouraging and empowering for me, but also for others. And, just a method of service, serving each other. So we appreciate you, that we don't want to not say that. We want to make sure that you understand how much we do appreciate you. So our tag for Purpose Journey Counseling, every time we are together, I want to encourage you to be loving, be kind, be compassionate, and be intentional towards others as well as towards yourselves. Lord willing, we will see you next Wednesday at 7 a.m. for our next Wellness Wednesday. So plan to join us again next week as we will continue the March theme of relationships. We'll be talking about a different aspect. So let's practice some empathy with boundaries over the course of the next week. And we'll be, Lord willing, back together again next week. But have a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday, and blessings and love.